All right, today we're going to continue with equations of circles. This time we're going to look at it from a different form. In the previous lesson, you learned about the standard form of the equation of the circle, where it had the center in the parentheses and the radius squared at the edge of the equation. In this case, we're going to modify the equation to get it to look like this. Notice that there's no parentheses anymore. Everything's to the left, it's equal to 0. And there's numbers before x and y. Those are the coefficients. Those are going to be represented values. And there will be a number either added or subtracted here representing some c value. We're going to be able to go from this form to that and this form to that. So let's start by looking at this example here. That is an equation, that's a circle that has a center of 2, -1. And it has a radius of 4. And that's labeled right on the circle. So we want to get it to look like this. What we first do is we write it in the standard form. So the standard form is going to have the parentheses. And we're going to do x minus 2 squared plus y. Remember, we changed the sign, so it's going to be plus 1 squared. Since my radius is 4, we'll say 4 squared, which is 16. So that's your standard form. Let me fix that so it says 16. To get it to look like this, we're going to have to distribute the x minus 2's to themselves and the y plus 1 to themselves. We'll have to FOIL that out. So it's going to be x minus 2 written twice, y plus 1 written twice. And you can FOIL box. If you know the shortcuts to multiply the same binomial twice, you can do that. But that's going to be x squared. We got x times -2, so minus 2x. And then we distribute the -2, so another minus 2x. And then the 2 -2's multiply to give you 4. So that shortcut really is just saying x squared minus 4x plus 4. We want to double the -2 basically. And the 2 at the end will be squared, so it's going to give you positive 4. In a similar fashion, you do the same thing with y plus 1's. And I'll do that all at once. So it's going to be plus, separate that out here, y squared plus 1y plus 1y plus 1. And then we set that equal to 16. So that'll simplify to y squared plus 2y plus 1 equals 16. Expanding that out, we want to rearrange it so that the x and the squared terms are together. So we're going to take that x squared and y squared. We're going to pull those toward the front. Then we're going to take your single x term and single y term and put those next in that order. So we have a minus 4x. That's going to be after the y squared. And we have a plus 2y. That'll be after the minus 4x. Now finally, we have to get it plus a number equals 0. And it could be a negative, by the way, so it doesn't have to be positive. So you look at your terms at the end. We got 4 and 1. Well, those add to 5. And we still have equals 16 on the right side. So if I want to get that equal to 0, I'm going to need to subtract 16 from both sides. So 5 minus 16 is going to be negative in this case. It's going to be negative 11. So your final answer to get it in general form would be x squared plus y squared minus 4x plus 2y minus 11. And then we set that equal to 0. That's the same thing as this. And Desmos allows you to graph them both ways. So I would still double check them. If you go back to the original equation, x minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals, now I'm going to put 16 in there, not 4 squared. It doesn't matter, but That's what the circle looks like, and that's certainly what I had drawn on paper. That should match up with what I just finalized. And you see how that overlapped it, exactly the same thing. So those are equivalent expressions. As you can see, mine are in blue and red, they overlap each other. So that's essentially the same thing. This form, we'll have to be able to work backwards to get to this form, and you have to be able to work forwards to get. So we'll have to go both ways. So before we get into going the other way, let's do a little bit more practice with these. So let's look at part A. Circle has an equation of x minus 4 squared plus y squared equals 9. Anytime that you have a squared term, write it out twice. I don't have anything but y there, so I'm not going to write y times y. It's just going to stay y squared. Multiply these out. That's going to give you x squared minus 4x minus 4x, and then plus 16 plus y squared equals 9. Combine your 4x's, so that's going to be negative 8x and let's do some rearranging. So we want the x squared and y squared first. Then we want our x and y terms separately. Now, because there wasn't a set of parentheses here, there isn't going to be a y term. So we'll go ahead and skip right to the number 16 equals 9. And our last step in this problem would be to subtract 9 to get it equal to 0. 16 minus 9 is going to be 7. My math was not working there. So x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 7 equals 0. And it's okay to have a missing x or y term if you don't have a number with one of them. You can check that on the graph. Let's look at letter B. You try that one on your own and see if you can pause the video and try it. Check your answer with me. The first thing I want to do is I want to rewrite the equation. And I want to write it in standard form because that's the easiest way to write it. So to do that, I'm going to switch the signs. X plus 5 squared plus y minus 8 squared. And r is the square root of 7. So the square root of 7 squared. Expand them out. Write this x plus 5 twice. And write your y minus 8 twice. Remember, a square root and a square cancel. So that's just going to be 7. So I'm going to do some shortcuts here. You know there's going to be two 5x's. So I'm just going to go ahead and write x squared plus 10x plus 25. And you know there's going to be two negative 8y's. So I'm going to write y squared minus 16y plus 64. Just combine a couple steps here. Really, you should be considering doing that every time you square a binomial. It's the shortcut, and honestly, that's something you should probably have down. So rearranging these, I want to have x squared and the y squared first. Then I'm going to put the 10x. Then I'm going to do the minus 16y. And my values, 25 and 64, that's going to add 25 plus 64 should be 89, I think. And lastly, I want to subtract the 7 to get that equal to 0. And 89 minus 7 should give you 82. So that is your equation of a circle in general form. And I'm going to check that last one. So let's go back to the original equation. X plus 5 squared plus y minus 8 squared equals the square root of 7 squared. You put 7, or you could do square root of 7 and then square it if you want to show all the things. I'm going to go back here and put the thing we just computed. And that overlapped it perfectly. So we know we got the right thing. And that's how you get it from standard to general form. Now, let's talk about how to get it from general form to standard form. And before we do that, we have to remember this skill from quadratics called completing the square. So let's review that first, and then in a separate video, I'll have the examples that go over how to get it from general form to standard form. So to complete the square, we want to be able to come up with two binomials that would multiply together to give you 8x in the middle. And I want to know what that last number would be such that these are the exact same binomials. So one thing that I know is because that's a plus, these are both going to be x plus a number, because I'm going to have two numbers that add to positive 8. And they have to, of course, add to a number at the end. So what two numbers will add to 8? Well, 4 and 4. So what does that c term become? Well, the c is what the last two numbers multiplied to, right? 4 times 4 is going to be 16. So that's going to be your c value. Now, how to get that without having to write these two binomials is you're basically going to take this number here, that positive 8, or if it's negative, negative, and divide it by 2. That's going to get you this number there. So 8 divided by 2 is going to give you 4. And then to get that 16, we multiplied the 4 times itself. Well, that's the same thing as saying 4 squared, right? So we're going to square that number. And that's going to be that value there. That's the process called completing the square. So completing the square is taking that b term, dividing by 2, and squaring it. That's what you want to do. Can you do it for these two below? Actually, there's 3 of them. So we have y squared minus 6y plus c, x squared minus 14x plus c, y squared plus 4y plus c. Try it on your own, and then you can check them with me. What value c is going to be part b? Well, you're going to take your negative 6, you're going to divide that by 2, and square it. Mind that you're putting that in parentheses if you're going to rely on your calculator, because anytime you square a negative, if you do not put it in parentheses and you use a calculator, it will give you the wrong answer. So that's really negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3 squared. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Notice that that always is going to be positive there, no matter if that's negative or positive. But the factors would be x minus 3, x minus 3. You see that? All right, try this one here. Should get you 49, positive 49. Your two factors would be x minus 7, x minus 7. And your last one. Should be 4, x plus 2, x plus 2. Did you know that 4 is the only number that when you square root it and you divide it by 2, and you subtract 2, you get the same thing. Fun fact. Okay, so that is the preliminary process to be able to know how to convert from this form to that form. On the next video, I will show you giving some examples with equations in this form to get to that form. All right, thank you for watching.